I'm so glad that I bought the second book. Should I be mad at Henry Cavill that he likes Bane? Because I don't understand this. I did not sign up for this. Oh my god. Hello book reading friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mel, and today we've got a super exciting secret video. Now, you guys saw the first installment, which was Reading Like Tom Hiddleston. I feel these celebrity videos not only allow me to really branch out to different genres and sections of books that I don't typically peruse, but also really challenge me as a reader to kind of analyze different works in a different way than what I typically read. This one is exactly what I need. So today we're going to read Henry Cavill's favorite books. This one was a little bit easier for me because Mr. Cavill is really into fantasy. A girl is very into fantasy. So if you put me and Mr. Cavill in the same room, I feel like we've got a match made in heaven, but also they're books that I've been meaning to read for a hot minute. This not only felt perfect because of the type of books that I like reading, but also because Henry Cavill is a bit of a nerd. So if you're not familiar with Henry Cavill, which at this point you might be living under a rock because everybody knows who Henry Cavill is. He was in the Tudors as Charles Brandon. He was also in the very successful adaptation of Man of Steel as the Man of Steel himself. He was also in a Mission Impossible movie against Tom Cruise, Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's adaptation of The Witcher, and most recently he was also featured as Sherlock Holmes himself in the Enola Holmes films. He's had a lot of successful roles so far, and his acting style is one that I particularly really enjoy. I love the fact that he stays very true to what he enjoys, which is action movies and fantasy stuff. So let us run through some articles, let me read some sources, and let me tell you what the first book for this video is going to be. So in an interview that Henry Cavill had in 2019 with a Polish news site, he talked about some of his favorite books, particularly some of his favorite Witcher books. And this is what Mr. Cavill said. My favorite books, The Last Wish, because it hooked me, broke my heart, put it together, and then broke it again. I fell in love with those stories. They're not your typical fantasy stories. There's something tangible about them. Many times after reading or playing the game, I couldn't get them out of my mind. When the opportunity to play Geralt appeared, I couldn't let it go. So with that being said, the first book that I am reading for this video is The Last Wish, which is a part of the Witcher series, the adaptation that Henry Cavill is taken a part of. Not only does he really love the books, he also really loves the games. He's talked numerous times about how much he's played them and loved them, and how much he loves the books, and all of the appreciation that he holds for this series as part of the source material for the show that he is in. I think this is very fitting, not only for all of those reasons, but also because season 2 was recently announced, and you bet I need to finish season 1 because I started season 1 and I never finished it. So now that there's a season 2 coming, it's confirmed. We have trailers, we have promo pictures, we have everything. It is the perfect time to not only read some of the books. In this video I will only be reading The Last Wish though, and also finish out season 1. And as a small picture, I guess, because I really don't know the ins and outs of the story, I will basically tell you what I know based on what I watched on the show. In this book we follow primarily Geralt of Rivia, who is a witcher, and I guess you could classify a witcher as a sort of mutant who has powers in order to hunt monsters for money. And we follow him and his travels throughout time and the world, and he is supposedly a very lonely character trying to just really find his way into this massive scheme of things, and things will happen along the way and he will meet people along the way. I really don't know much about the series as a whole. However, as a first book in this video, it is The Last Wish, and I think there is no more to say at the moment, at least, besides let's get into it. update time and like a crazy person, I'm updating you guys at around like 46% of the book. Like I'm super close to 50%. I didn't quite make it because it is literally 3 a.m. Like I've been reading because I've just been enjoying my time a lot. It is 3:08 a.m. I am literally a crazy person. However, I am adoring this so much, and I think I'm liking this a lot more than I thought I would, not only because of all of the references that it's pulling from, but also because of the writing style. I don't think I've ever experienced a writing style quite like this, where it's poetic but it's also super fantastical and it's incredibly descriptive. Like the atmosphere and the action sequences are literally incredibly written. And what I didn't expect about this one, because I really went into this knowing nothing about what I was getting in this installment, in this one, it actually is a collection of short stories. So I believe we have 7 short stories or around that number, and all of them pull from different fairy tales, which also really took me by surprise. Going into A Gain of Truth, which is, I believe, the 2nd short story that we got, or the 3rd, it was heavily inspired on Beauty and the Beast, and that, again, took me by surprise a lot. We've got Nivellen, who is a prevalent character in this particular short story, and we see him and his story and how he was cursed by a priestess to remain in a beastly form because of all of the crimes and all of the misfortunes that he committed in his time. And then we've got The Lesser Evil, which is very heavily inspired on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that has arguably been my favorite short story. There were so many great quotes on that one that I was in love, like the whole time. I was so engaged. I was reading, I was flipping the pages, and again, you see very blatant references as to, oh, so she's the fairest of them all, and she falls in love with herself and her reflection in a mirror, and the mirror talks back to her. So again, very blatant references, but still subverts them in a way that is incredibly original and fits this sort of narrative and the story, which I really freaking love. And one of my favorite quotes that I found in this book was in A Gain of Truth, and this said, "The streaming raven black hair floated in the air, floated, floated, floated. The head fell onto the gravel. There are fewer and fewer monsters. And what am I? Who's shouting? The birds. The woman in the sheepskin jacket and blue dress. The roses from the Nazaire. How quiet. How empty. What emptiness within me." And again, there were just so many great moments in The Lesser Evil as well. Evil is evil, Stregobor. Lesser, graded, middling, it's all the same. Proportions are negotiated, boundaries blurred. It's not a pious hermit. I haven't done only good in my life. But if I'm to choose between one evil and another, then I prefer not to choose at all. And I think the world is very interesting. I think there is a lot to say about the misogynistic society that lives within this book. I think the commentary that it provides and what it showcases is very interesting to me in the way that it is written. I also think Geralt as a main character is fantastic. I think he's the perfect conduit for this story. I think in particular in this one, and this is me talking without ever really having read the other books, but I think we see a very mature Geralt in this particular book within these short stories. You see a very seasoned witcher, you see a very seasoned fighter, somebody who has trained the entirety of his life basically and has signed away any other duties and responsibilities to this cause, who has honed his body and his skill, and who has sweat, blood, and tears invested into this lifestyle, and who truly knows through and through what they are doing and what their mission is. And I also love him just as a character and like his moral compass. And although I can't understand how his dialogue could come across as like narcissistic and like extremely egocentric, I really think that when you look at the landscape of epic high fantasy, I don't think it's unusual to see characters like those. Whenever we think of those stories, we really need to separate what we know from regular YA and what we know from regular adult fantasy, because the beats in these books are very different. The writing is also going to be very different, and I personally am really enjoying it even though that's the case. I love his dialogue. I love the way that he comes across like so confident, so knowledgeable about all the things that he knows. He's like literally a walking encyclopedia about like so many different things, and he's very much set in his ways. He won't do anything out of spite. He won't do anything that could potentially jeopardize his credibility and his work and his ethics ethics and moral code in a way, and I personally really love that about Geralt. I also really like, I guess, the change of pace, especially coming from a reader that typically reads a lot of YA, especially fantasy. The trope that we see a lot is the chosen one trope, and so walking into this, it's super refreshing to see a character that was subjected to this lifestyle that was very gruesome, that was very strenuous for him, that he had to undergo experiments and hormones and so many different things in order to enhance his body and in order to mutate in what is the Witcher. And anybody could go through that process. There are literally hundreds of Witchers, or at least there were once upon a time. And so it's the fact that it could be literally anyone that makes it so interesting, and it's really what you make of that skill and of that training that sets the difference and sets you apart from other trainees or other Witchers, which again speaks a lot about Geralt's particular motivation as a character and how determined he is to carry out his job to the best of his ability. And another character that I literally need to highlight and just talk about her for a minute because I really love her is Nenneke, or Nenneke. I really don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is kind of, I guess, the high priestess of where he is currently at in the first short story that we see. She is such an amazing character. She is so strong, and she will take no bullshit from no one. She will literally shut you up and sit you down and tell you how things are, and you are not going to mistreat her. You are not going to talk back to her because she knows her power and she knows her position and she knows where she stands, and she won't take no bullshit from no man, which I absolutely love about her. She has such a comforting presence to her as well, and the way that she is aiding Geralt in this journey is also something that I'm quite enjoying. So her character is one that I have been pleasantly enjoying, and I am sure that the rest of the characters in this are not useless characters and they will continue to pop up in next books, hopefully, fingers crossed. I would really like a full circle with a lot of these characters so as to not this be in vain, I guess, if that makes sense, though I don't think it will be. And it was so interesting again to kind of see this magic system where power, yes, it's there and it lives within him, but in order to conquer all of these big monsters, beasts that are so fantastical and even beyond him, he needs kind of enhancers in a way, and there is some sort of substance to help him conquer whatever greatness he is fighting against. Almost like the Poppy War, I guess, in a way where substances are a part of the magic system in order for these characters to reach their full potential when it comes to magic prowess. So I think it's really interesting. The one thing that I'm still wondering is obviously Jennifer. I again watched some episodes of the show a while back when it came out and never finished season 1, but I remember Jennifer being there. I know she's a prevalent part of the story, so I really want to see what this will come to with Jennifer, because she's been mentioned several times. I just don't know exactly the circumstances of the meetup, the circumstances of how he fell in love, if it was love at first sight, and what exactly has made her stick to his mind as constantly as she has. I shall take this makeup off because I'm over it, and then go to bed, wake up, keep reading, update you as I go, and finish this tomorrow morning. Well, hello there, you guys. Good afternoon. I was gonna say good morning, but it's not morning. It is literally 3:50 p.m. for me, and I've been reading a little bit of The Witcher. I have officially surpassed the 50% mark. I am currently 57% into The Last Wish, and how do I tell you guys that I am obsessed with this? There is also so many ideas running in my brain right now as to what videos to make even with this. I think this very short story that I just finished reading reminded me and just gave me like war flashbacks in a way of the show and what I did watch of it, and how truly season 1 of The Witcher, based on what I'm remembering now, is primarily The Last Wish, and that I am very interested to see and kind of rewatch the show to see how it compares to the original source material, how similar, how different it is, and also to see how the cinematography itself complements this particular story. I am really interested to see all of this, and now I'm wondering if I should do like an episode 1 sort of analysis and see see, you know, again, how it compares and like contrasts with the book in particular. And I think it'd be really interesting to kind of dissect the show as a whole, or at least season 1. If you guys would like to see that, I rarely do kind of like TV movie content here, but I always have a lot to say. So if you guys would be interested in that, let me know that in the comments, because I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. At the very least for episode 1, thinking about it. However, I just finished reading A Question of Price, and I do have to say, probably alongside A Lesser Evil, this is one of my favorite short stories that we have gotten so far from The Last Wish. Not only was it incredibly action-packed, which I mean all of them are, I truly have this feeling that this story in particular will have a lot of significance, especially with how it wraps up and Geralt basically tells them like, I'll come back in 6 years and see if fortune has been kind to me or destiny has been kind to me. And I don't know exactly how that is going to pan out. What I do know is that this will hold a lot of significance for the future. And I really liked seeing all of the nuances and all of these little quirks, I guess, within the story, like even down to quoting Shakespeare with all's well that ends well. I think all of the references that it's grabbing from, it is so eloquently and perfectly done in my opinion. This story in particular was most definitely a Rumpelstiltskin and Cinderella retelling. And again, some of these are very blatant when you talk about riches and manipulating someone and offering a prize and taking something back, because magic has consequences and decisions have consequences. I really liked the execution of it in this story. And as I was watching the show, it never even crossed my mind that all of these stories were originally something else. Like they are a retelling of something. And what I appreciate about the book so far is the fact that yes, the magic system and like the world building is not eccentric. Like it doesn't expand through thousands of pages. Like I guess it's one of those magic systems and worlds that isn't overly complicated, but I can understand how this could potentially be confusing for other people who are not necessarily familiar with fantasy, or in particular with higher fantasy. There are a lot of like strange names and like places and like breeds of like creatures and like monsters and like mutants and like whatever. There's just so much, I guess, like lore in here that is very much told through this very disjointed, fractured sort of storytelling that again is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's working for me. I oftentimes when I read these kind of like fractured writing styles, I typically walk out very quickly and I'm like, I don't like this, but it works so perfectly for the story because you know that some way or another all of these things are going to come back in later Witcher novels. And I'm sure all of these things, I don't know how similar or different the video game is, but I'm going to assume that there is a lot of overlap with those as well. So I am very much enjoying the writing style. And the other thing that I have to say is that oftentimes when I read translations, it sometimes doesn't bode well for the work itself. Because the thing is, there are a lot of words and a lot of sentences and a lot of slang that cannot be directly translated to English, or if it is, it probably won't serve the story, the purpose that it should in a lot of different ways. And I find and stumble upon that a lot when reading translations. I just have to commend the translator for this story because it's beautifully done. And again, I don't read in Polish. I don't know Polish, like nothing, like none, like zilch, nada. Just props to the translator for making this come across as the wonderful story that it is, because it's everything. Like it literally, I am in love with this. I am absolutely going to buy Sword of Destiny, and I am ready to dive back into the world of The Witcher. As far as fantasy books go, I don't think I've had this much of a great and intricate time in a long time as I am having with this. So again, everything's going fantastic. I will go back to reading. You guys, what the fuck was this ending? Are you kidding me? I'm so glad that I bought the second book. They touched, and this won't make sense if you haven't read the book, but they touched after avoiding it for so long and the consequence of it, I need to go set up this camera, update you guys, and move on to the second book. But holy shit. Oh my god, you guys. I'm saying that, and I'm at the same time, even though it's complete opposite of what I am reading because I'm reading epic fantasy, my brain just goes to, oh my god, you guys. I can only think of Legally Blonde if I'm being honest. However, I have freaking finished The Witcher. Not The Witcher, I keep saying The Witcher. The Last Wish. If this is not a 5-star book, I don't know what is. This is the most unexpected turn of events that I've had in a minute there, because I didn't think I would end up loving this as much as I did. Again, the fractured, disjointed sort of storytelling, more towards the beginning than at the end, if I'm being honest, worked so well for the story. The audiobook for this also is freaking fantastic. But as you kept reading, I felt like the stories felt more and more connected, especially as we near The Last Wish. I loved the way that within the Voice of Reason chapters, right at the end, it connected towards whatever was gonna happen next, and I just loved that kind of like full circle moment that we got. Also, Geralt's relationship with Dandelion was fantastic. I love the sense of loyalty and camaraderie and adventure that these two have. I love the friendship that I got to see within The Last Wish and how they have such great banter, and there were just so many great interactions between Dandelion and Geralt, specifically in the midst of action scenes when he was like, well, I'm going, there's a monster in the loose and you gonna stay here, and he goes, and miss the action? Are you kidding me? I can totally make a song or a poem out of this. So I don't care what you say, I'm going after you. So I just like that sense of, I really don't have to, but I'll do it anyway, because A, you ain't gonna do this by yourself. Also, because I'm not staying behind and losing in all the action. So I gotta be present. And there's also some sort of gain out of it. And also completely unrelated to their relationship, but there's this one quote on page 226 that I really, really loved. I literally dog-eared the page just a little bit so that I could remember what page it was. I managed. The Witcher looked at him straight in the eyes. I managed because I have to, because I've no other way out, because I've overcome the vanity and pride of being different. I have understood that they are a pitiful defense against being different, but I've understood that the sun shines differently when something changes, but I'm not the axis of those changes. The sun shines differently, but it will continue to shine, and jumping at it with a hoe isn't going to do anything. We've got to accept facts. That's what we've got to learn. And there were just so many other beautiful moments in this book that I constantly had to take a step back and be like, oh my god. It was, I guess, like poetically gruesome and adventurous. I really loved everything about the writing style in this story, particularly at the end. As I was reading and listening to The Last Wish, I found myself tearing up several times because of the connection that Yennefer and Geralt develop, and you can tell that it's almost like love at first sight, that he was captivated by Yennefer the first time that he sees her truly, and the more that the story progresses, you can see that sense of loyalty form and that sense of love in a way just form very quickly between these two characters. And again, as you near the end of that short story, it becomes more and more frantic as he realizes that he has used already 2 of his wishes, because the monster that he is dealing with is tied to him and he didn't even realize that he was making wishes because the monster felt obligated to grant these. And then when he is pressured into making that 3rd wish and he realizes the decision that he needs to make, not only was the sense of dread and tension fantastically written, but I was just tearing up because I was like, what wish is he going to make? And we never find out. Like, we never really know what he wished for that got them out of that situation, but we only know kind of the consequence of it, which is the binding that we see again as a consequence. And I think there's such a beauty to that particular ambiguous part of the story where you won't truly know, or at least in this book, I don't know if we find out in later books, but there's such a beauty in this installment in particular in not knowing, but knowing that there's other books and kind of crafting theories and making up your own promises and wishes that Geralt made. I think as a reader, it's a super engaging experience, and it makes it even more heartbreaking and beautiful and just full circle, because Geralt is a character that's very given and he's very selfless, obviously because of his job, but you can tell that he is willing to do anything to protect Yennefer at this point. So I really loved this. And then the very end of this freaking book, when I tell you I gasped out loud. This won't make sense if you haven't read the book, but they touched, and oh god, the ending of this book really, like, I was gasping, I was shocked, I wasn't expecting that. And again, I'm so glad that I've already bought the second book because, or Sword of Destiny rather, which is the one you should read in chronological. But I am very excited to see more of Geralt and see more of Jennifer and Dandelion and just all of these characters and see how these stories in particular come around full circle in the main linear timeline of The Witcher. And even going back to that very first article that I was reading with you guys as I was talking about the reason why I was reading The Last Wish, I think this ties it up perfectly when talking about Geralt. And Henry Cavill said, "He's not all chocolate boxes and cuddles. He's the kind of guy who will kill you if you mess with him. If you mess with those around him, he will kill you. But at the same time, he will put his own life in grave danger to save a complete stranger from harm, and there's something wonderful about that." I couldn't agree more. Again, very curious thing when I was making my research on this video and making sure that I knew exactly what books Henry Cavill was reading and exactly which ones he actively recommends. And when I was searching, not a lot came up, which I really appreciated because it made my job a lot easier, but also the task really daunting. And so as I was going through the webs and again browsing and perusing, what does this man read? I found this. Originally I found this on a website, on a blog, which is called Henry Cavill News. I guess I appreciate the dedication because without this video would be incomplete. And I went to Henry Cavill's Instagram and I found the source material. And this is what came up. "Sometimes I like to escape from thinking about work and all things going on in life. Reading books is one of the ways that I achieve this. This is what I'm on right now after just finishing the first book in the series. It's a really good series. If you're into sci-fi fantasy stuff like moi, then this is a must read. If you're not, then believe me, it's a great escape from the travails of daily life, a great way to wind down in bed, and actually contains some solid life lessons. Win, win, win." And it was very obvious to me after reading this post that this was the book I needed to read. Not necessarily the book that he talked about in this post, because it is a second book in a series. Pop on the screen what the book is, Mel, but rather read the first book in the series, which is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. It is not only an incredibly ambitious goal for myself to read and finish this in the span of 2 or 3 days, we'll see how that goes, but to also just start out the Cosmere with this book. Let me break this down. I know a lot of people say start with Mistborn. However, as I was making a deep search into Brandon Sanderson's website, he says that you can essentially start with any first book in series within the Cosmere. I know nothing about Way of Kings. I am going into this completely blind, which again is very bold for a 1,000-page book, but I am determined. I have all the will and power in the world to do this. I have gotten through 800-page books in 24 hours, so maybe this could be possible in 2 or 3 days. We'll see how that goes. But I am really scared yet excited to read this. I only have one experience with Sanderson, or rather 2, but it's the same series, and that is the Skyward series. It is YA sci-fi, which is very different to what I know his typical writing style is. And while I know it's very different, I absolutely loved Skyward. I had an incredible reading experience with the books, and it gave me a taste of what Sanderson is capable of doing. So I can't even imagine if he did that in that short amount of pages, what he is capable of doing in an adult epic high fantasy story of 1,000 pages. The fact that Brandy Sandy can literally write so many series at the same time, first of all, without getting confused and having his storylines and plot lines completely well thought out and remembered, is not only incredibly impressive, but also ambitious, and that's part of his charm and success. But also, this man really be regurgitating the freaking thesaurus. This book is massive. I just hope that, in my eyes at least, he accomplishes what he set out to do. So according to the world, or most people, he really does. I do have Audible credits in case I want to listen to the audiobook of this, which I know it's also like hella long. It's like 48 hours, something like ridiculous. If it comes to it, it'll come to it. Girl is scared. I'm not gonna lie, girl is scared. But the man loves it, and I love him, so we'll see if I love this too. Just know this is my reaction to the end of part 1. Why am I crying? So this without context makes no sense. But Kaladin, that's all you need to know for now. I will come back soon. Just wow. Hello everyone, so it is time for me to update you. There is a lot to update you guys on. Not only did I reach almost 60% of Way of Kings, which in and out of itself in like a day or two is a big accomplishment, but I also need to unbox my July Fairyloot with you guys. So Fairyloot is here, Way of Kings is here. It's a great time. There's a lot to go through in this update. So let me start out with unboxing the July Fairyloot because that is the one box that I've been trying to open and see what's inside, but it hadn't gotten here yet. So let's open that and then we can move on to actually updating you guys on Way of Kings, which, just as a preface, I've already bought every single book that follows in the series. We've got a non-deadly knife this time around. It is nowhere near as sharp as the one that we typically use. I'm really excited about this. So the first thing I see in here, is this like a tea can? Like I remember we got one like City of Brass inspired on Illumicrate a while back, and this, I don't know what this is inspired on, but it is indeed a tea tin. Let me just show you guys this up close so you can see it in all its glory. It's got like these beautiful like whimsical designs. I really don't know what fandom this is from. It's also got a crescent moon right here at the top. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I am here for this. And it's also got like some, I'm guessing like bat wings right here when you take the lid off. This is Cinderella is Dead crew socks. I love me some socks. I literally wear socks every single day. I don't think I've ever gotten socks from like a book box, but these feel really, really nice. So let's see what, oh, this is gorgeous. Can you guys see that? I think that's better. So we have a dress in the design. We've got some books. We've got some butterflies, some vines, a tree. This is really pretty. We've got a bunch of everything in these socks, which is nice. We've also got an umbrella. So this has got a bunch of cards in here. What is this inspired on? Okay, this is inspired by Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I have yet to read the book. I do own it. I think the concept of a, what's it, the Queen of Hearts retelling is really appealing to me. I'm obviously not going to open this inside because a girl is superstitious. So this is gonna stay closed because ain't nobody bringing no bad luck into my household. I love you, Fairyloot, but this is not happening. We have got this pretty moment, which feels leathery. This feels nice. Okay, so this is definitely a book sleeve, and this might be inspired on Spin the Dawn. Okay, so it is inspired on Spin the Dawn. It's got a zipper, which I really, really appreciate. I can't grab it. There we go. We've got a zipper. Really gorgeous. Like, I think it'll make a lot of sense, especially if you've read the book, but this is just a really pretty moment, and I like the combination of kind of like both books' color palettes, because the first one's like very blue, and then the second one is like very red and like orange, so I really like the integration of both. And we do have, oh, this is gorgeous. So this is the art for this month. Again, if you've seen the UK artwork for all of Elizabeth Lim's books, this is the same artist that does all of the illustrations. So to me, this was like very, again, clear as to what the book was going to be. And then we do have this gorgeous art print. I don't know what this is for. I don't know if this is inspired on the book or if this is for something else, but we've got this a beautiful art print. It does have some gold foiling, which I love. And then, oh my God, these are gorgeous. Are you kidding me? We've got this month's character cards, and look at these. Like, I'm obsessed. I need to know what these are for. I genuinely have no idea. So we've got the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands, and let's see. Inspired by Caraval. I was literally talking about this book not too long ago with my patrons and how I was interested in this book. See, this character art really be doing it for me. Wow, they look stunning. Okay, this is a really pretty moment. And let's just run quickly through the artists for each of the items. So for the umbrella, it was designed by Team Fairyloot, and it was inspired on the Alice in Wonderland retelling Heartless by Marissa Meyer. The book sleeve was designed by Rosie Thorns 88. Then we've got the, oh wow, okay, the tin. Okay, I thought so. Be Glad, oh my, I didn't even read the quote. I am so slow today. Be glad of your human heart. Pity those who don't feel anything at all. This is inspired by Aquatar. This is really nice. I'm definitely putting this on my desk now. That is actually really freaking cool. So the tin can is inspired on Aquatar, and it was designed by Chatty Nora. And then for the foiled print, it was designed by Kayvon_Kaylee, and it's actually inspired on the Star Touched Queen series by Roshani Shakshi. And the socks were designed by Katarina Book Designs, and as always, the tarot cards were designed by Morgana Zero Anagram. So there's that. This month's book, which again, I already know what it is. I already know. I don't want to see nothing yet. So we've got the fairy scoop. Okay. Oh, wait, I missed the bookmark. It's still inside. We've got the bookmark, which I'm really glad that we got a bookmark. I mean, we always do. This one's gorgeous though, like this design. I am living for that design. We've got the art print, which is followed at the back by the letter from the author, so that is really nice. And this says, a princess in exile, a shape-shifting dragon, 6 enchanted cranes, and an unspeakable curse. It will take more than magic to find their way home. Oh, that was so poetic. Also, that reminded me of Hannah Montana. This is obviously the UK cover. We've got these gorgeous stenciled, I'm guessing like birds. Yeah, there's an array of birds in here. Just the purple moment on top and at the bottom. I love that it's like all around. We do have the signature from the author, which is really nice. Oh, I can't wait to read this. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Are you? Oh my god, the character. Oh my god, are you kidding me? So we've got the naked hardback, and it looks like this. You've got, I'm assuming, the main character, obviously. We do have some character art. I already know this is gonna be like so whimsical and like magical. I am so ready to read this. So this is the July Fairyloot, and that was honestly an incredible box. Okay, so now for update time for, oh my god, so heavy, for The Way of Kings. Hello. It is going extremely well. I am currently 555 pages in, which seems like a crazy point to update you guys on. However, considering how long this book is, this is barely just like 55% of the book. So I think overall we're doing pretty great. I am definitely hoping to finish this tonight. I have 6 something hours left of the audiobook, so I know I can definitely finish this so that I can get up this video for you guys. It seems so crazy to say this, like whatever I'm going to say is going to be the first grader bootleg version of whatever thesaurus Brandon Sanderson spit here, because I don't think my words and my vocabulary can even begin to explain the expanse of this universe and how great this book is. Look at me actually being eloquent. I do have words sometimes. However, I will say, I think you can tell very, very quickly how seasoned of a writer Brandon Sanderson is going into Way of Kings. I mean, not only because of the length of the book, but I think you can tell mostly because there is no need or feel to rush anything in the story. You can tell that everything has its own little place, its little nook, and that things will start developing when they need to be developed and not when the author thinks they should be. And I really appreciate that about Sanderson's writing. I think I'm so used to YA fantasy and like YA sci-fi, or just YA in general as an age group, and not to obviously shit on YA because I love YA every once in a while. Most of the time I have been reading YA, and I think what I stumble across a lot of the time with YA is that there aren't enough pages or there aren't enough words, because there is kind of like a certain limit to words and pages that you can have in YA, or at least most of the time there is. And it's mostly due to like production and publishing and what is the most viable in terms of production money. Like that's a whole other conversation about publishing. I am very used to, because of that limit or that kind of box that authors need to put themselves in, for a lot of the action to feel rushed, for endings to feel unfinished, for storylines to feel incomplete, for plot points to not necessarily be very connected. And while I overlook it most of the time because I know it's YA and I know that not everything can be achieved, this is the complete opposite of that. And I know it can feel quite, again, daunting for some people because it's a bit of a slog and there's just so much happening and there are so many named characters and there's so many POVs. I know there's like 18 different POVs in this book, and there's like literally like probably like over 100 characters named in here. And so now that I have read 555 pages, I think I am adequate now to give you somewhat of a synopsis that probably won't even capture half of what this book is about. But in this book, we have primarily a world called Roshar. And in Roshar, there are so many fantastical, mythical things happening, from people having powers to big, huge ass animals residing here, to wars happening with seemingly unbeatable soldiers. And exactly as we start this book, you get to see the start of the chain of events that will develop itself throughout the entirety of the book. There was the fall of 10 consecrated orders, which were basically known as the Knights Radiant, and they possessed armors and weapons of myth and fantastical power, quite literally. And those are called shard blades and shard plates, and these basically give men the ability to fight like no other and again be seemingly unbeatable. They give them power like no other, and not much can hurt them while they are in the possession of these weapons and abilities. And obviously, because these are so powerful, you can bet that people are after them. So there's obviously people fighting for them. There are battles being won by these artifacts, and a war is actually happening right as the book starts. And this war is happening over on the Shattered Plains. And the Shattered Plains is basically a conjunction of chasms. So in order to keep plowing through the Shattered Plains, these people called the bridgesmen basically need to carry through bridges in order to allow the army men to pass through these chasms, and again just keep plowing through this and fighting people, murdering monsters, murdering soldiers, just trying to win this war as best as they can. And in the midst of that, we've got Kaladin, who is the love of my life. Like, I would die for Kaladin. Kaladin is single-handedly one of my favorite characters. He is definitely one of the main points of view that we get in The Way of Kings. And Kaladin is a soldier. He is called Stormblessed. He is a person who is very gifted in the battlefield, and he is a very selfless character. Like, when I tell you guys, it's probably one of the most selfless characters I have ever read about. I love the mental health rep that we're getting with Kaladin, because you can tell that Kaladin is in a place of anxiety and depression, and in a very dark place, honestly, where a lot of the time it seems, and specifically in one scene of this book, it seems like there's a point of no return. However, Kaladin constantly sets aside his feelings and his feeling of inadequacy, and he steps up to the plate every single time. And it's almost that situation where if I can't do it for myself, I will do it for others. If I can prevent others to be where I am at now and to feel how I feel now, I will do so. And I will fight for every life lost. I will fight for every person who didn't get to fight. And that attitude, again, in and of itself, it's very selfless. And so I love him. So he is a part of the bridgesmen, again, the people who carry these bridges. One of my favorite characters, like one of my favorite characters in competition with Dalinar Kholin. So Dalinar is another one of those prevalent POVs that we get in this book. Dalinar is one of the heads of obviously one of these armies that are fighting this war, and he is in close relation to King Elhokar, because Dalinar's brother is actually the late king, and both of them were very, I would say, probably fascinated / obsessed with this text called The Way of Kings, which again, I love when titles of books come full circle. And there is almost this mysticism around The Way of Kings and whether that text is accurate, whether people should really abide by it. There is a lot of mystery about a lot of the things that this book contains throughout what I have read. And he constantly thinks, or maybe is hallucinating about passages of this book and things that his brother Gavilar used to tell him before he died. And he is constantly at a battle and standstill on what to do and how to unite the people given all of the events that have happened. And then another one of the prevalent POVs that we get in this book is Shallan, who is currently studying to be a scholar, and she also has a lot of hidden motivations, I should say, as to why she wants to study under Princess Jasna. And there is something about Shallan's POV as she is investigating and as she is so fascinated by the passages of the Way of Kings and the passages about the Knights Radiant that might lead to some sort of discovery about the war itself. I, again, already told you guys how much I love Kaladin. He owns my heart, and alongside Kaladin, Syl. You guys, when I tell you, I absolutely love Syl, and I think it's so fascinating too, the way that Sanderson has built this world in which Spren, who are basically kind of like fairy ghosts or ghosts of some sort, they cannot really remember anything. Like, they're just beings, and your feelings kind of bring them forth, and they might get attached to you, but they can't say your name, they don't remember their name, they really don't know where they come from, they really don't remember much. And so a lot of this world building is so intricate and so specific that I am just in awe of Sanderson and how his brain works, honestly, and how it literally all just works. Like, there is not a single thing about this book that I have not liked so far. Again, I think even in the argument of there's some chapters that might feel really slow, or like the book itself feels really slow, I think the book is really good at balancing those moments of high action with those moments of passiveness and those moments of discovery. I think overall it works really, really well, especially the contrast between Kaladin, Dalinar, and Adolin's chapters versus Shallan's chapters, because these three over here are like very much involved in the war. Like, they're fighting, they're killing monsters. Like, we have like 5-page, 10-page, 15 pages of like action sequences. And then we've got Shallan on the other end of the spectrum, who is again like studying, and she's like very much a scholar. So those moments of passiveness really give you a break from like the bloodshed and like the intricate descriptions of war. So I really like the balance that Sanderson has created between these two, because otherwise I think the book might be just too overwhelming for some people in terms of like violence and like action, which I really don't mind. I know for some people it's really difficult to kind of picture action scenes, but I personally have a great time with them. So that is why I am not really minding the way that they are lengthy in this book. And don't also get me started on Dalinar, because Dalinar is another one of my favorite characters. I freaking love this man, and the way that even though he has a lot of doubts about many different things, about his ability in the war zone and his remembrance of all of these passages of the Way of Kings, and whether he's just crazy or like really imagining these things, or whether they're reality and how exactly they make sense, I like how Dalinar, even though all of these things are happening in his brain, he still does a great job to show up whenever he needs to show up and to do whatever he needs to do and be such a badass fucking character. I am just in awe of, like, there was just one moment, and I wish I'd been vlogging then, that I completely flipped out with Mr. Dalinar, because that moment where he snapped on the battlefield with the claw, it's the claw scene. If you've read this book, the giant claw, if you know, you know. And also, Sanderson has like this undertone of like, I'm gonna say like poetry to his writing, which is really, really good. I really like the way that the chapter starts. It's driving me crazy, I'm not going to lie. It is driving me a little bit crazy that I don't really know what they mean, but each chapter starts with like this beautiful quote, and I need to see how it all ties up, because I'm really not understanding, even though I'm annotating most of them. This one, just page 95. I'm cold. Mother, I'm cold. Mother, why can I still hear the rain? Will it stop? And this is also interesting to me, because I found this playlist on YouTube about the Way of Kings, and it's just like background music, but they purposefully put rain as ambiance. And then I read this, and now I'm wondering how relevant the rain is to this plot and how that's gonna come back. I really do have a post-it there for that. And then this, I'm dying, aren't I? Healer, why do you take my blood? Who is that beside you with his head of lions? I can see a distant sun, dark and cold, shining in a black sky. Like, why is it so beautiful? Like, who gave this man the right to write like this? Because I cannot understand, I cannot comprehend why his writing is so freaking beautiful. A man stood on the cliffside and watched his homeland fall into dust. The water surged beneath, so far beneath. and he heard a child crying. They were his own tears. Like, again, why is it so freaking stunning? I really do need to understand, and there's just so many like tidbits that wouldn't necessarily make sense, but I really need to know how all of these will come full circle at the end. Again, like, are they passages from the Way of Kings? Is it some sort of prophecy? I really need to know how these will come back because I'm going crazy. I'm literally annotating all of them. And also, again, going back to Kaladin, like, his mindset is like so heartbreakingly beautiful, and I really like the way that even though we have this incredibly high fantasy world, Sanderson continuously finds ways to humanize his characters in a way that even though you have this completely outlandish landscape of everything, because it's literally like whole freaking universe, it's freaking Cosmere, he really does find ways to make all of his characters relatable in the most basic, rawest of ways, and I really do need to appreciate that. And if I am enjoying this as much as I am, which this book is giving me like 4 or 5-star feels, like depending on how this ends, we'll see, but I know this series clicked for people in Words of Radiance, so that means that Words of Radiance will probably be even better than Way of Kings, and I really don't understand how. I also already bought all of the books, so there's also that, because I was just ready to give this white man my money. I was just like, take it all, Sanderson. Just, I'm gonna line your pockets. I will go ahead and keep on reading and update you guys as I go, but I am definitely finishing this tonight because I really want to get the video out either tomorrow or on Monday. I will work my absolute hardest, and yeah, let's go. And I'm sure I'm forgetting so many things to update you on. It's also really hard to talk about this book without giving you spoilers, because it's just, how do I talk about this book without spoilers? I can't. I genuinely just want to say what I want to say, and that's not good for the people who haven't read this book. So I shall continue to read. Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me? You know what? Amaran can go eat some shit. Oh my god. You guys, I am currently in an interlude on page 710, and when I just listened right before the interlude started, I was ready to literally throw it out with Mr. Amaran, because he did not just, I swear to the almighty, why does everybody keep coming for Mr. Kaladin? Like, what is your issue? Let's talk it out. Let's get you a therapist, because Kaladin is out here literally saving everybody's ass. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He is taking care of everybody, even though it's not his duty to do so. Half the time, he goes above and beyond to make sure that everybody stays safe, that nobody dies, that everybody's doing their job, being incredibly motivational, killing off your enemies. And what do? That's what you repaid him with? I'm mad. I'm real mad. And don't get me started on Shalyn and her storyline right now, because the last thing was A Fade to Black. If you've read this book, you know. And I am just all over the place right now. Also, these chapter starters are driving me crazy, because somebody said, should I find the need to locate it quickly? Who are you? Who is annotating this something? Is it the Way of Kings? Is it another edition of something? I just need to know why do I still not know? I have 30% left of this book, and it's driving me crazy. I need so many answers, just so freaking many. If this book ends on a cliffhanger, I swear to God, Mr. Sanderson, Brandy Sandy, oh my, please don't tell me this ends on a cliffhanger. And then when the tragedy happened in the battlefield and Kaladin just started yelling, no, no, and he started running, and why all the pain, Brandy Sandy? Who hurt you? I don't know who I should be angry at. Should I be angry at Mr. Brandy Sandy for choosing pain, or should I be mad at Henry Cavill that he likes pain? Because I don't understand this. I mean, I know what I was getting myself into, but I am feeling these characters' pains too heavily because the writing is so good. Great, lovely, it's a good time. I did not sign up for this. Oh my god. Hey, it's 9:26. 9:26! Have a lot of questions, and I think my first question is, who gave this white man the honor, the right to treat me like this? Who gave him the right to make me cry and to make me emotionally distraught as much as he did? Because the answer is nobody did, and yet it happened. I finished The Way of Kings clearly by my reaction. When I tell you, I always try and guess the plot twist because Detective Mel, and it's so fun, and I like thinking while I read. Woo! When I tell you, nothing could have prepared me for what went down in the ending. It's like there's just so much going on as you read this book that the last thing you're thinking about is, what is the ending? What's gonna be the plot twist? So once it finally drops, it literally drops on you like a freaking bomb. And so I still can't wrap my head around who is sending these messages. If you know, you know. Why Dalinar is hallucinating or seeing the things that he's seeing, and who exactly is behind all of this. And then the very last page, how dare this man make me read 1,008 pages to leave me in a cliffhanger. I get it. It's a 10-book series, Mel. Calm down. I literally got no sense of completion about a lot of things that I was wondering about. So who's writing the chapter quotes? I don't know. Elhokar, Amaram, and Sadeas are officially on my blacklist, is all I'm going to say. If you've read this book, you understand the why. All of them can literally go eat a pile of whatever they want to eat that's unpleasant. I cannot believe the audacity of some of these people in this book. Oh my god. And then do not get me started on the big plot twist, the Voidbringers. Are you kidding me? Like, this was just, the last 300 pages of this book are just like hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, and when you think you're done, there's something more. I am literally in awe of how perfectly, I guess, this book wrapped up by the end. Like, yes, I still have questions, but granted, like, the books are long. We have a lot of books in the series, so I really don't mind not having questions answered because I'm sure they'll be answered along the way. Brandon Sanderson just has this gift of like planting seeds and then just bringing it full circle at the end and just making it still be so shocking. Like, again, you're so distracted by all of these tidbits happening throughout the book that the last thing that you're thinking about is a twist because you're absolutely living in the moment. And the pacing for the book was perfect. Even though it's slow, it just works so well for this world. The world building is literally out of this world. Like, I have never read anything quite like this, with the calling and the Parshendi and the Light Eyes and the Alethi and everything in between. It was just so freaking original and new and unlike anything I'd ever read before. And I'm turning into a high fantasy reader now. Like, there's literally nothing that can stop me from reading more high fantasy because I've just been missing out on the goodness of incredibly big, expansive world with lots of action. And even though there's not a lot of romance, which you guys know that I typically like in my books, everything else compensates for that lack of romance because you're not focused on that. Like, the focus of the book is not that of neither of these books are. And although there are obviously like subplots that are romantic, that's not at all what you're focused on because you're focused on the mental health journey of Kaladin and all of the bridges, man. Like, when I tell you guys, it was so heartbreaking to see these men go through everything that they did and lose each other and try and lift each other up against all odds and circumstances and literally have to carry bridges across these chasms, quite literally see each other be shot down and arrowed down, slashed away. It's honestly, I can't even imagine what these men, like, realistically, if this were like a real thing, like how they would get past this. And I really like the accurate depiction of war in this book. I think oftentimes when I see books like these that are very I guess, gruesome and violent and have war in them, what is overlooked most of the time is the mental health aspect. And being completely realistic, there is no way that anybody's gonna walk out unscathed mentally, like maybe physically, but when it comes to the psyche, there's PTSD, there's trauma, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's just so many things that arise from these high stress situations that I really like the way that Brandon Sanderson wrote that in The Battlefield with the Bridges Man, because it's true. Their mental states and the way that they feel is very realistic, and I loved every single second of it. And don't get me started on a character that I have not talked about yet, which is Seth. I literally, my heart breaks for him and all that he has to do against his own will because he is bound to people. There was one passage, if you know what I'm talking about, when he gets reassigned a new lord or a new, I guess, boss or whatever you want to call them. Words are escaping me right now. And he basically goes on about how he truly feared the day that somebody would come to understand his abilities and use them for the wrong reasons. Oh my god, when I tell you guys, I started crying. I found myself crying at things that I didn't think I was gonna cry at, and then, oh my god, it was honestly so good. And then even in the midst of all the craziness and the sadness and the betrayal and the war and the gruesomeness, there were still some great comedic moments with Syl in particular, who Syl is literally one of the highlights of this book, and her relationship with Kaladin and how they developed this incredible bond. And then there was this passage of her talking like, oh my god, I know what sarcasm is. And then he just gives him like this little devious smile. And it's just little tidbits like that that again are very representative of how life works. Like sometimes life gets dark and you can't overlook everything crazy and negative that is happening in your life, but then there's those little tiny moments of light and happiness again in the midst of the craziness. And I absolutely love the way that Brandon Sanderson wove that into the storyline as well. And then, oh my god, Dalinar at the end, oh my god, with Bridge 4, oh my god, I burst into tears when these men thought that there was no other hope, and then you know what happens, and then Dalinar does you know what. Oh wow, it's one of the most honorable characters that I have ever met. I freaking love Dalinar with my entire being, like it's crazy. And the other thing that I haven't even talked about is all of the religious overlaps and integration into this book. Like obviously you don't expect anything different. Sanderson is a Mormon, so I think it was kind of expected that there was going to be some sort of commentary / overlap with religion, but I love the way that it was done in this book. Like I love all of the ins and outs of the way that religion works in this world, and even beyond that, a lot of the questioning that characters do and how they talk about religion. There was this one passage, oh god, let's see if I can find it. Everything has its opposite, Shallan. The Almighty is a force of good. To balance his goodness, the Cosmere needed the Voidbringers as his opposite. So the more good that the Almighty did, the more evil he created as a byproduct. What's the point of doing any good at all if it just creates more evil? Suffice to say that the Almighty's pure goodness created the Voidbringers, but men may choose good without creating evil because as mortals they have a dual nature. Thus the only way for good to increase in the Cosmere is for men to create it, and that way good may come to outweigh evil. It might be religion, but it still has to make sense. It was so beautifully done, and it was done in a way where it fit very seamless into the world and in a way that wasn't overwhelming for the reader either, because I know some people don't like to read about religion in books, but I just really loved everything about this. Like there is very little that I can say that I didn't enjoy this book. I can't think of anything. This book was perfect. And people love Words of Radiance and Oathbringer more? What the hell am I gonna rate Words of Radiance and Oathbringer when I read them? Like 10 stars? I might. Honestly, I might do that. Which also, the fact that there's a freaking book named after Dalinar's sword, my brain cannot begin to comprehend. I am scared. I also would like to know what it means. Why is there a book called Oathbringer? I have so many questions. Yes, 5 stars to this book. Props to Sanderson for being a freaking mastermind when it comes to writing. Like and also props to Mr. Cavill for having this much taste. Like look at you go, Mr. Cavill. Why am I talking as if he's gonna watch this? He's not. Oh wow, like this is definitely my favorite video that I've ever done. I'm literally editing this right now, so this is just like me after like watching watching myself react to both of these books and just be like overwhelmed by how much I loved both of these. This is a 1-hour video starting from there, absolutely. And then second of all, like there's nothing I can come up with these books that I don't like. Like I can create arguments for why people wouldn't like them, but that's all of the reasons why I did. Wow, I'm glad that I ended up making this video. I'm glad that Mr. Cavill has taste, not that I ever doubted it. So yes, you guys, that is it for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video reading Henry Cavill's favorite books, and they indeed were great. Like, this man has so much taste. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and comment down below if you've read any of these books. Let me know your thoughts down below. I know there's people who've started these books and then have DNF'd them. I know there's people who've also read these books and loved them. I know also a lot of you were surprisingly excited that I was reading Way of Kings. So whichever the case, let me know down below what you've thought of any of these books, or if you're looking forward to reading them. I just like to chat with you guys, like in depth, I guess, in the comments. If you reached the end of the video, let's leave some wolf emojis down below in honor of the white wolf himself. I think it makes sense. And don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Again, I am constantly uploading videos that I'm sure you do not want to miss. Let me know down in the comments if there are any particular celebrities that you've seen reading that you'd like me to try out their favorite books. If you'd like more exclusive content from me, I do have a Patreon. We call ourselves the Citadel, and there is obviously a bunch of stuff going on there too. We have exclusive live streams, exclusive videos, early access to videos, a book club, buddy reads, a Discord server, and a bunch of other stuff. There's literally so much stuff going on there. So if you would like to join us, the link for that is down below alongside all of my social medias. Again, thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye guys.